So this is going to be the quick down and dirty show that
Yeah.
sets the table for baseball.
Well, I want to include a Mark Marquis piece, a little tiny, maybe minute long thing. Even though I didn't
You mean
play
like
for
the
him.
first time you lost your virginity? 1 minute long? Sorry, is that inappropriate?
Yeah, it's just, even though I didn't go to Stanford, it was a huge honor for him to recruit me. And I still have the letter. It's in pristine condition. See this pretty well there, signed by
Wow.
Mark Marquis. It was a big deal, man. It was after the Grant game when we beat him. I got a letter from him. And that was another one of those moments where I thought, man, this might be something more than just, it might be something more. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, it was, and then he recruited me hard. And funny story is, unfortunately he passed away a couple days ago. A funny story to do with him is I went to UCLA and then we went to Stanford to play. And I came in, I think the bases were juiced, or I don't know. It was pretty intense. And I'm warming up and I hear, I'm trying not to pay attention, but I can hear to the left, that's where Stanford's dugout is. I can hear all this banter going on. And I just kind of I tried not to look over there, but I just kind of glanced over. And the biggest ragger of all was Coach Marquis. I mean, it was impressive how loud he was from the warm-ups all the way through. And he recruited me hard. And then now I'm on the other side, of course. And now it's like, okay. And that was, again, back to that sort of hero and goat proposition that we were talking about last
Yeah.
time. He thinks you're great. And the next minute he's ragging you to no end. It was impressive. So,
Well,
unfortunately, he passed away. A lot of people, we'll miss him in the Stanford community. And then he went on to Santa Clara after that. I guess he coached there and helped those guys for a long time too. So
were they ever any good?
condolences to people that care deeply for Mr. Marquis.
Was Santa Clara ever good, baseball wise?
Yeah, kind of not nearly as consistent as Stanford, but definitely they've had their moments over the years where they had some top-notch players get to the big leagues, pitchers and stuff that, it's always been a good, solid program as far as, going to win the World Series. Probably not, but definitely a lot of guys came out of Santa Clara that played professional baseball. So, including, I believe, Coach Savage. I think Coach Savage went to Santa Clara. Yep. You met him the other day and you had a nice conversation with him, man. That was cool.
Oh yeah, he's totally cool. And let's just say that he gets my off the wall weird sense of humor that I could say random stuff. And he's old enough to just get it, because a lot of times I say stupid shit that is sometimes a 1970s reference. So somebody has to be old enough.
He's like
somebody has to be old enough to get it. Yeah. Not everybody gets the randomness, but I
remember a couple of times in that conversation, you were talking to him. I was kind of watching to see his reaction to your crazy commentary. He just rolled with it. I thought, okay, this is cool. I like this.
Well, and I think if I remember, doesn't he live in Seal Beach or something? So I don't think we lived real far. So he kind of got
pretty close.
The eccentricities of Orange County humor mixed in with 70s childhood stupid stuff. So we
He's a good
made it
dude,
through.
man.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, I think that experience epitomizes what we're trying to do here by talking.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That embodies baseball right there. I mean, I saw you reconnecting with no less than 25, 30 people. There might have been more there, but I just saw all these people are part of a fraternity known as the UCLA Baseball Alumni Association. And they all fought their own battles at different times in different eras. But you guys all had the same mentors, the same goals, the same structures, and a lot of the same mentors finding their way through different eras. And you can tell the way it bonded all of you. And I even posted about it. It's just, number one, it's a joy to see you in your element with a high level of comfort, incredibly happy. And then to see all these people converge upon each other from all over the country, different times, different eras, different ages, etc. And yet you guys all totally connected. And I got to witness it firsthand. I also saw something weird I never thought I'd experienced was I've never been an outfielder. I've always been an infielder. And I was telling Maury when I got back that one of the fly balls that I shagged was a line drive piss missile that I snow coned. And I was like, I honestly don't know.
I remember that.
I couldn't believe how good these athletes must be because I might have taken 8 steps. I was winded
Right.
after
Yeah.
8 steps.
Yeah.
And I cannot
Yeah.
imagine a quality outfielder covering like 100 feet, full head of steam,
Right.
going to the warning track and
Right.
making that catch where, it almost ripped my glove out. And then I was like, I barely saw the ball. And it just gave me a true appreciation for the level of talent that, graces, a top school like UCLA. I mean, you're
Right.
somebody when you are lucky enough to step up onto that field. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing we talked about before because, there's so many great players, great talent, just incredible talent. So if you have an ego there, there's something wrong because you're surrounded by people that are so talented. I mean, whether they're more talented, less talented, there's so much talent on that one spot. And the two things you got to do that are some of my favorite things on a baseball field is sit in the dugout and shoot the breeze.
Oh yeah.
We got to talk to that young guy, Hawk, throwing
Yeah.
97 miles an hour. Super nice kid, right? He wants to be on the podcast. He
Yeah.
said for
I
sure,
I
Coach
I
Savage.
manipulated him. I manipulated him into the
Yeah,
show. Like,
you
dude,
worked the
I
gym
still
magic.
remember I
Right,
still
right.
remember how I convinced him because when I said, "Hey, how'd you like to be on the podcast?" I saw the blank look in his face, like, "Really, bro?" And then I said, "It'd be really cool is
It's
my
like, what?
understanding is you're going to be really, really good at this game. You're already really good, but you never know where you're going to reach." And I said, I think it would be fun for you as this young person who's still at UCLA to memorialize who you are in this space of time and then us capture it.
Yeah.
So, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, maybe you've made it to the major leagues. Maybe you donned an all-star uniform. Maybe you've won a ring and you can look back and say, hey, when I was at UCLA, this is who I was. I need to remember who I am. And I said
Hmm.
something to that effect. And I wasn't like manipulating him. I was trying to tell him that an old guy at my age, I love looking back at who I was. I love treasuring the moments in
Hmm.
time. And I thought that might be cool for the kid.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a great point of view. And so, I mean, you got to sit in there and talk with a young guy, talk with a bunch of my era, younger than me. We got to go out and shag fly balls out in the outfield during batting practice. I mean, it's like that's why I call it the Mecca because I mean, there's so many cool things when you're just there, not even the game itself. It's all this other stuff, like the Tom Dempsey guy. He's a Beverly Hills attorney. I
Yeah.
mean, he's made a gazillion dollars. I mean, it's just all these different personalities. Later on, after you left, I got to talk to Garrett Cole for a few
Oh, he
minutes, and
showed
I
up?
asked him, how's it? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shit.
And I so I talked to him for a few minutes, and I asked him, how did you get any setbacks with your injury, and the rehab and all that? He said no, and he was. I mean, I could tell just by the way he was, the intensity that he had, that he's ready to prove himself again this year. I mean, it's just an amazing amount of talent, and that's one of the things I mentioned before, where when I was younger, for whatever reason, I decided that being a small cog in a humongous wheel was appealing to me. Instead
Yeah.
of trying to be the man all I wanted to be just one of the guys, one of many that were talented and did some stuff in the game. Some guys played in the major leagues for 15, 20 years. I mean, it's amazing. It really is so much fun. And this time was better than last time, and last time was phenomenal as far as you being able to be a part of it. It was
Well, I was able to throw
good
the
stuff.
baseball. That was a nice feeling,
You threw
but
very well. Yeah.
yes, but you're still evil. I'm telling you, those balls you were throwing at the end, I mean, they not only, so it's one thing to have velocity. Velocity, you can track it right to the mid, whatever.
Mhm.
And you can get a little scared and say, if it misses and hits me in the chest, am I going to drop? Whatever. But you were throwing some weird shit at the end that it was
Yeah.
almost like a
It's like
knuckle
this.
at the very end. And one of them
Right.
moved
Right.
and caught me. And it missed the web, caught me right in the heel, no protection. I think the bruise was gone. That was not cool. Um,
Well,
but it
that's the
got
two-seam fastball. I fell in love with the two-seam fastball when I went to college. And as soon as I saw that I could make the ball do that, where it comes out of my hand and then does this sort of like dance at the end, right? It comes at you and then it kind of dances. I could see her glove doing this, and that's when I knew we needed to stop. because your
Well,
eyes were
yeah.
like you saw a shark or something, a shark in the water, like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah, it was brutal. You know, you're not going to believe this. So we had talked about the tube scene versus the cross scene. I had a
Yeah,
dream.
four
I
seam.
just remembered it last week that I'm coming out of the bullpen
Oh, nice.
and they got the jug gun on me and I'm only hitting 82. And I'm like, wait, something's wrong. And then this is true story. And then I said, wait, Eric told me to throw the two seam. I wonder if
Yeah.
this is going to get me better velocity. Now, I don't know if it's even true,
Okay.
but for some reason, I went to the two seam and I got up to
Yeah.
86, which I call it Greg
Nice.
Maddox level. A Greg
Yeah.
Maddox level where you're fast enough that you can keep people off. You know, if you could throw it like 72.
I'll take movement over speed every time. If you have
Yeah.
both,
So,
it's like yeah,
so I got it
movement
to
over speed.
86. I got it to
Oh my God.
86. I go in the
Nice.
game and the first pitch, strike one, loud right into the mitt. Next pitch,
Nice. Okay.
deposited into the stands. I woke up. I don't even know why. I think it's
What a
because
rude awakening.
I think we had played catch and it made it so subconsciously dreams are weird. I think it got me thinking about cross the scenes versus two scene, etc. So anyway,
Yeah,
let's
it was my
digress.
first year of college when I became a student of the two seam. I threw all four seams when I was in high school. And then once I really got into the science of the two seam, coming off the two seams like this, right? But I would actually get to the point, me and my friend would get to the point where we'd put our hand like that, almost like a
Almost to
screwball.
throw a
S-
backup screwball.
Not like that, but just angle my hand like that. And that's when the
Yeah,
ball started doing that crazy stuff you saw at the end.
yeah.
I mean, it freaks people out when I start to get to that point. They're like, "Oh my God." In addition to the fact that he can still throw pretty hard, now the thing is going all over the place. Forget it.
That is
That's the
that was
point
so
where I
fun. It was
see
so fun
somebody
being out
soiling
there.
themselves.
You know,
Oh
there's
man.
something special about being on the grass. There's something special about, you know, getting to stand on the infield, quality dirt, because like, a lot of people don't even acknowledge or understand the importance of a
Right.
well manicured field. It's like a golf course, you know, that the
Right.
more manicured it is to get truer hops, you know, because I still remember Jim David, you know, it was a really bad field as much as everybody tried to, you know, take
Hmm.
care of it. And there were still rocks, there were still uneven places. It
Rocks.
wasn't
Yeah. I
uncommon
remember
to
there was
get
rocks.
some balls to jump,
Nope.
especially near the seam. You'd get those quick jumps up towards the chest. You had to be prepared to react. So, but I mean, that's what makes baseball baseball. And I'm starting to feel the feeling now. Spring training's coming up,
Yep.
and it'll give
Pitchers
us a
and
chance to
catchers reporting.
yeah, it's going to give us a chance to talk about what we're doing. But you know, it's really scary. I don't know if this is a sign. I just noticed this. I forgot about this. I'm wearing my 2025 World Series hat, and
Hmm.
lo and behold, look at the back of it. Tommy J got a hold of this
Hmm.
and chewed it to pieces. I'm still going to wear it. It's a snapback, and I've got one snap that still works. I'm not
Oh, you just need
embarrassed
some
to
duct tape. Duct
yeah,
tape will
well,
fix it.
and that's old school. I'll probably go to some duct tape, but I hope it isn't a sign of what's going to happen to our boys. But you know, it's been an interesting off season. So I think when we talk, you know, our upcoming episodes, you know, things that I think would be really cool for us to talk about is you'll give a good technical overview of situational stuff, and we'll be able to relate to big moments and what they mean. But I think it'd be fun to have there's 30 teams in Major League Baseball. And I think what makes our childhood special is so many of our friends love different teams, you know,
Hmm.
growing up.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
obviously a huge influx of Giants fans. There's the A's fan like a Mike
Right.
Todd. I had Orioles friends, you know, tons of Dodger friends. Weird part is growing up with Pete Fondersmith, didn't even know he was a Dodger fan.
Hmm.
We never talked about it.
Yeah.
Lots of Yankee fans, but I think it would be fun to have friends on the show to talk about, you know, their favorite team. So we every week is dedicated to a team. Why are they your
Hmm.
favorite team? Childhood experiences, whatever. If the person
Hmm.
was a good ball player, what does it mean? Those sorts of things. Talk about the outlook of the team. You know, I'll probably have somebody else on to talk about the Dodgers because I talk about them at nauseum. The only thing I'm going to say this One thing I'm going to say this week that I found really interesting is River Ryan is a top prospect for us. He has got incredible stuff. We signed his brother. His brother was over in Pittsburgh, has some
Huh.
talent, and very, very inconsistent. And that's the crap I like about the Dodgers is the fact that they recognize the importance of family, even recognizing the spouses and the children
Mhm,
and having a good clubhouse and all of that. But I thought that was a really cool signing this week because it tells me they're invested in River Ryan because
mhm.
I'm not going to bore people. We have more pitchers than you can imagine in LA right now. That says something to me when they're committed to this kid because we have so many other arms that are of Cy Young caliber. And here's a
Yeah,
kid, and it's basically saying, we're committed to you. So that's kind of cool. But getting the people in and having them talk about their childhood experiences, that'd be super, super cool.
I think so, yeah, I mean, one of the things about the Dodgers that's always been their trademark is that pitching has been something they've always focused on, going back to the '60s. Pedro Martinez was in the Dodgers system before he got traded because they thought he was too small.
Yeah, he turned out to
They
be
do
pretty
mistakes.
decent.
Yeah, he turned out to be one of my
Well,
favorites.
they're wrong. I will say this, they're right more than they're wrong, but they have
Sure.
missed out on some players that they gave up on too early. But baseball's weird because it can all change it could be one single pitch, one single at bat that can change a career. We saw somebody like Tom Niedenfuer. He was a really,
Mhm.
really good
Yeah,
reliever for the
I
Dodgers,
remember that.
and he gave
Right,
up a key home run
in the
was
'80s.
never the same.
Wasn't it, Jack Clark?
Remember Donnie, was it Donnie Moore? Is that his name? He pitched
Yeah.
for like the Angels and
Right,
he gave up
against the
a
Red
home run and
Sox. Yep,
committed
I watched
suicide.
that game. I
Yeah.
watched that game in '86. Yep.
Yeah.
He gave it up to Hendu, right? Dave
Yeah.
Henderson.
Dave Henderson. And so
Yep.
those key moments can change everything. But the one thing the Dodgers do that the average person wouldn't know, only total idiots like me that are total knowledge geeks, is everybody wants to talk about analytics in the game. And a lot of
Yeah.
people will say analytics ruin the game because it's situation as opposed to a situational thing. They'll look at the numbers and say, okay, against this hitter, this pitcher is better, etc. What the Dodgers have done with analytics is they've really looked at spin on the pitch. They will look at
Mhm.
the arc of a swing and how the hits will speed up the bat and launch angles and all that. They use analytics as well as anybody in this league to straighten the ship with players that are struggling because I've seen it more than once over the last 5 years where even those of top caliber, and I'll give you a perfect example, Baez, he was a reliever the Dodgers had
Denny's
probably about
Baez, yeah. I remember
five,
300
five,
miles an
six
hour.
years, about
Yep.
5, 6 years ago.
He was a great pitcher.
Everybody had given up on him and everybody was wondering, why is this guy still on the roster? And
Yeah.
oddly enough, I would talk to my friends offline. Yeah, we don't need to argue in public. What do we need to do? And I said, he's around for a reason. The scout sees something. There's something there. And lo and behold, I read the
Mhm.
story. They went in, they looked at his grip. He had been gripping it too tight, changed a little bit of the way he was holding it. His release angle had gotten too over sideways. They moved him more over the top, which then improved his velocity and release. But then it allowed him to throw the hook a little bit better, and he carried us down the stretch. That's what the Dodgers do
Mhm.
very well. And I think the Giants are going to do it this year. I looked at their roster. I think that's going to be a pretty good baseball team this year. I think they're going to be on the
I think
improve, and
so.
I think Posey will have an impact on that team as well because he's a
I think
winner.
this year is gonna be more of a Posey impact than last year. I think he's you look at the structure of the deals with the Giants that are being signed, like the second baseman from the Padres, they signed him or they're gonna sign him for one year. And that was the magic from the years that they won the World Series is they would get a guy not for a long-term contract, but right now. And somehow they capture lightning in a bottle and it would set the team on fire in terms of being able to win a bunch of games, especially down the stretch, especially in the playoffs. Battle tested. That's a thing that people talk about all the time. But when you get in that moment, and as we talked about with that last World Series game last fall, if you're not ready for that moment, it's going to pass you by. If you
Yep.
are, you're battle. You've been there and done that. many times over. The moment's going to come. It's not going to be bigger than what it has to be. You're going to rise to the occasion and make an impact. And that's really the key. For pitchers, it's about keeping your team in a position to win at the end of the game. That's as far as, anytime I ever pitched back in the day, all I wanted to do was keep my team in the game. I'd try to figure out what kind of game we're in, the type of landscape of what we're dealing with today. And then whatever it was, if it was a barn burner or a nail biter, whatever it was, I wanted to make sure I kept my team either ahead or behind just slightly to the point where we could, go over the top at the end of the game. And that's the same thing with hitters. They're chomping at the bit, especially the ones on the bench. They're chomping at the bit to get into the game, make an impact. And I think that's what Posey is doing. I can see the method now. Last year was kind of hit and miss. This year it looks like he wants to get certain positions lined up so that inevitably when injuries take place, they have somebody that can jump in and pick up the slack right where it left off.
Yeah.
When I play thing, if a guy was taken out of the game, the guy that came in did not come in at the same level where you came out. The guy that came in was going to step up from where the guy that was leaving the game. So this guy's waning. This guy that comes in is going to step it up and do better than what that guy is. Makes perfect sense logically, but a lot of times fans don't really think about it in that respect. They're thinking the guy coming in is going to do the same job as the guy going out. No, they're trying to step it up to another level so that they can just stuff the other team from being able to get runs in those latter innings. That's why the
Momentum is
closer is
everything.
important. Yeah, that's why the closer is such an important role, and that's why they pay him so much money because, 1 through 8, inning number 1 is intense. Everybody's excited to play the game. Intensity, boom, we're playing the game. Then it's like in the middle innings, you're just trying to it's like a boxing match. You're just trying to carry the other guy for a while down the stretch in the game. You get to the 7th inning, you can see the finish line. And then in the 8th inning, you're like, oh man, we're so close. And then that 9th inning is just like the first inning, but now the game's on the line. That's why guys like my friend Trevor Hoffman and, guys that have been great closers over the years, that's why they get paid so much money, because you have to be able to meet and exceed the intensity of that inning. That's why I'm so excited for your team with Edwin Diaz. As much as his stats don't show that he's way better than the guy they went out and got last year, when you see him, when you go to Dodger Stadium and you see him pitch, you're going to see a huge upgrade in how he deals with that last inning. That's what I think is going to happen.
Well, I think he and Scott are going to share. I think Scott's going to be fine because his velocity and his movement was good. He just had lost his confidence. I think that's
Right?
the
Yeah.
beauty of the off season
Scott Sunny.
and spring training. And game 1 is simple question. Did you think the Blue Jays were going to be in the World Series and lose in game 7 in the final inning?
No,
I'm going to say no way. And that is the beauty of baseball is you never know what you're
you never
assembling
know.
as a team.
Right?
And everybody has the same opportunity on day 1.
Right.
And I think we're going to be very surprised on who steps up and who's ready to go. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what's going to be exciting, especially when we get to talk to our individual friends that might be
Mm-hmm.
a fan of, say, the Detroit Tigers, which frankly, I don't really follow them other than I would like the Dodgers to trade for Skubal. They might know some stuff I do not know and give us some insight
Great.
to what they're
Yeah.
hearing around spring
Sure.
training. And then not only can we make this fun and tell some funny stories and some anecdotal stuff that makes people laugh and see the joy and family part of baseball that makes it so special, we also might even
Mm-hmm.
educate some fans and give them some stuff an opportunity to look forward to in the upcoming season. That's why this first show is so important. Is everybody? That's what we're going to attempt to do. Now, whether we do it is a whole different deal. We might not execute the way we want to. I think we're going to have some surprises. I talked to some friends that would like to come on that have played the game at a pretty good level and might surprise some people, etc. I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll drag some people in, but the most important thing is let's have some fun friends in, like
Yeah.
Tony Lerma. Who does he like?
He loves the A's. That's his team. Oakland A's.
That's a toughie because I'd also like to
Or
have Mike Todd
Sacramento
in
A's
because
now.
To
Oh,
Mike
yeah, that's
Todd
true. He's a
is
big A's fan too. Yeah.
obsessed. As a
Right.
matter of fact, my last trip to Sacramento, we found some weird A's bobblehead, and I dropped it on his porch to surprise him. I think it was a Dick what's Dick Williams bobblehead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he digs that stuff. But we can have people like Lerma on that you have good chemistry, tell some funny stories, and talk about baseball.
Yeah. Me and Tony could go on forever. Well, one of the things that
Unfortunately,
I
we're
thought
going to
was,
try and do this at 30 minutes. So
yeah, 30
that'll be
minutes. We
the
got
tough part.
a couple minutes here. The other thing I wanted to mention about the Garrett Cole conversation is that I told him about Janet, my wife. I said,
Yeah.
she wanted me to be out there. She loved UCLA baseball. She loved Skip, Coach Adams. She loved, Coach Savage. She loved all the people. She loved the vibe. And the one thing I told Garrett Cole, and what was interesting about that conversation is I said, Janet wanted me to come back out here and be a part of the group and feel the vibe. And he looked at me and, the thing is he's in the zone, right? He's at
Oh,
the
yeah.
top of his,
He's intense.
he's,
That dude is
he's
intense.
intense, right?
Yeah.
And he's got everything to prove now. All of a sudden, he's got everything to prove because he basically was out a whole year. And he looked at me like, feel the vibe. I said, yeah, I mean, you don't really understand that now because you're still playing at the top of your game for the New York Yankees. You don't understand that. When you're almost 60 years old like me, you're going to understand it. And you're going to seek me out and say, I get it now. He kind of
Yeah.
looked at me like, okay, all right.
That dude
But yeah,
epitomizes the big dick energy. You can see him. It's like, do you remember Al Raboski?
yeah,
Yeah,
Matt
he was a total.
Alfabosky.
Yeah, and he would come out like that. That dude has this look of like, I'm not only going to strike you out, I'm going to
Yeah.
strike out your mom, your dad, your children, and your neighbors. I dig the dude.
One of my goals when I played, and this is how intense I was my ultimate goal was to strike out the hitter to the point where he wished he never picked up a bat in his life. That's pretty
I don't.
intense.
I think that's a good way to end. That's a great way to end the show. I want everybody to know Eric Bates is cruel. That's it. That's the end of the show.